Brilliance Audio presents Property of a Noblewoman by Danielle Steele, performed by Dan John Miller. It was one of those January days in New York that feels like winter will never end. There had been record-breaking snow since November, and the morning snowfall, the second one that week, had turned to sleet with a bitter wind. People were slipping and sliding on the ice and wincing in the wind as it stung their faces. It was a good day to stay indoors as Hal Baker sat at his desk at a branch of the Metropolitan Bank on Lower Park Avenue. Just over 3 years before, the bank was on the dividing line of the part of New York that had lost power in the epic hurricane that devastated the city. A few blocks north of the power outages and floods, the bank had continued to function and serve its clients, and even offered trays of sandwiches and coffee to flood victims in a gesture of civic compassion. Hal was in charge of the safe deposit boxes, a job others found tedious and that he had always liked. He enjoyed the contact with their older clients as they came in to riffle through their belongings, check their stock certificates, or deposit new wills in the boxes they rented. He chatted with them if they wanted to, which they often did, or left them alone if they preferred. He knew most of the safe deposit box clients by sight, and many by name, and he was sensitive to their needs. He liked meeting the young clients, too, particularly those who had never had a safe deposit box before, and explained to them the value of having one for their documents and valuables, since they lived in apartments that weren't always secure. He took his job seriously, and at 60, he was 5 years away from retirement, and had no burning ambitions. He was married, had 2 grown children, and running the safe deposit box department suited his personality. He was a people person, and had been at the branch for 28 years, and at another branch of Metropolitan for 10 years before that. He was hoping to complete the final years of his career where he was. The safe deposit boxes had always felt like an important responsibility to him. They were entrusted with their customers' most valuable possessions and sometimes darkest secrets, where no one else could go or pry, see or touch them, save themselves. The bank was located in the East 30s on Park Avenue, a previously elegant, entirely residential neighborhood called Murray Hill, which had long since become interspersed with office buildings. The bank's clients were a mixture of people who worked in the area and the genteel older customers who lived in the remaining residential buildings. None of their elderly customers were venturing out today. The streets were slick from the sleet, and anyone who had the option would stay home, which made it a good day for Hal to catch up on the paperwork that had been gathering on his desk since the holidays. Hal had 3 matters to deal with today. 2 of the smaller safe deposit boxes had not been paid for in exactly 13 months, and the clients who had rented them had not responded to the registered letters he'd sent them a month before, reminding them of that fact. The lapse of payment usually meant that customers had abandoned them, although not always. After waiting a month past the unpaid year with no response to the registered letter, Hal could now call a locksmith to drill them open and assumed he would find the boxes in question empty. Some people didn't bother to tell the bank they no longer wanted them, stopped paying the monthly fee, and threw away the keys. In those 2 cases, if the boxes were empty, Hal could then turn them over to the waiting list he had of people in need of safe deposit boxes. It was usually a long list for the smaller ones, and it was frustrating waiting 13 months to reclaim them, but it was the accepted legal procedure at any bank in New York once clients stopped paying for a box. It would have been easy to notify the bank, relinquish the box, and hand in the keys, but some people just didn't bother. They forgot about it or didn't care. The 3rd box he was planning to deal with that day was a different situation. He had seen the client a few times over the years and remembered her distinctly. She was a very distinguished-looking older woman who was polite but never chatted with him. He hadn't seen her in nearly 5 years, and payment for the box had stopped 3 years and 1 month before. He had sent the standard registered letter 1 year after the payment stopped, and then waited the month, as required by law, before the box could be drilled open in the presence of a notary public. It was one of the 5 largest boxes available at the bank, and in front of the notary, he had carefully inventoried the box's contents, as he was supposed to do. There had been several folders with the owner's neat handwriting on them, one with photographs in it, another with documents and papers, including several expired passports, both American and Italian, issued in Rome.